community that they are nurturing, and their help and their patience and their enthusiasm was something which is rare and is one of the reasons I think that in the long term they're going to succeed very well here.
I want to thank particularly Maria and Ram, who were great initiatives of this program, and I guess I speak in the name of all participating startups here. Thank you.
I want to say hi to the other countries tuned in. We've marketed this event also in Finland very strongly and in Israel.
I'm going to tell you exactly why, the reasons why you're here and what we're going to get out of the day as well. Please put your hands together for the founder of Accelerator Frankfurt, Mr. Ram Shohan.
Business life, startup life, entrepreneur, it's all about people. Because it is a big day for Accelerator Frankfurt.
I think that it's a wonderful area to actually develop and adopt initial customers.
This feeling that failing is very, very bad. And if you're an entrepreneur, if you want to do something, you have to have the ability.
I think the unique thing that actually Frankfurt brings is this connection with Israel. We all know Israel is a startup hub, like the second after Silicon Valley. And what we want to do here in Frankfurt is really create a vibrant ecosystem. And for that, I think it helps that we have this Israeli startups coming to Frankfurt, mixing with their own, with crazy ideas and crazy ways of doing things, with a more stable, down-to-earth, German way, systematic way of doing things.
Banks, VCs, business angels. I think you have the biggest responsibility of nurturing our startup ecosystem. You are the oxygen for the startups.
Maria and Ram, they have a huge background and experience in bringing up startups. So they come from communities in Israel and Finland, where startup is a very strong community and maybe much more active and dynamic than in Germany. And they have brought that spirit to Germany.
No, it's definitely been an outstanding experience, so I would definitely rate it as a 10, for sure.
It would be a 10. Honestly, first program we participated in, but it certainly over-delivered our expectations.
Yeah, this would be absolutely like 100, but if it's at 10, it's close, then I would say 10.
Maybe you've seen me from a distance. Or you've heard about me. We even may have met up close. But how well do you really know me? So let me introduce myself properly. This is my high five, my low five, A5. This is me. This is me. This too. This is me centuries ago. This is me today. For me, tradition is the foundation for trying out new things. Big and small. It takes me 23 minutes to get to here, from here, to go here. I've shaped the history of commerce. And my history keeps shaping me. I love big numbers, except when it's the small ones that count. For some, I'm the journey. For others, the reward. If you asked people about my strengths, few would say beauty. You know what? I agree. But the thing about beauty is, it's in the eye of the beholder. I think it's time we finally get to know each other. I am the Frankfurt Rhine-Main region. Become a part of it.
Hello everybody, I'm Sven Martinsen. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the blockchain analytics firm LEVERATE Analytics. I'm a Swedish-Brazilian and living in Helsinki, Finland at the moment. And fun fact about me is I guess that I'm a huge gamer nerd, like proper one. So why did I become an entrepreneur? Well, that kind of just happened. Then I did not expect that to be a thing in my life, but here we are. And we founded the company because we have been following blockchain and cryptocurrencies for many, many years and seen huge potential in this new world economy and technology. However, there's of course been a lot of issues with it in terms of trust and illicit activities going on. So we set out to build a tool and a service that actually analyzes the blockchain and provides risk scores and the such for that, and all in case of compliance and mass adoption. So what do we expect from the accelerator program is really to get out there, build a strong brand, enter the German market, which is actually booming when it comes to blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And I guess that's about it. So, you know, stay safe and see you around.
Hi, good morning everyone. My name is Daniel. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founder of Amon. I'm Italian, and Amon is a cryptocurrency wallet that we help users to use cryptocurrencies in an easy way. Our wallet is powered by an AI system. Fun fact about me, I dance bachata, not super well, so I think that's the funny part. I became an entrepreneur because I think when you're an entrepreneur, you start to think out of the box. You start to execute things that you have to do on your own, so you don't execute things for somebody else. So it really helps you to grow, to open up your mind and wake up in the morning and do something new and better. So why I created Amon is because I really believe that we can help the crypto adoption. We can foster the adoption of crypto by integrating them with the traditional currencies. So we really saw an opportunity in 2017, which is still there. So we were really happy to focus on this project. My expectation, so I already was part of 2 acceleration program. So I think in acceleration programs you always find good startups, good entrepreneurs where you can learn from. Of course also mentors which can help you in different parts of the business that you are in. And of course as we are also fundraising, we hope that we can also find some angels investors or some other investor which can help us into delivering our product. So thank you very much. We see us in the online session.
Hi, I'm Gabriel, CEO and co-founder of Cohen. I'm from Italy, but I lived in London for 11 years, so London is what I call now home. Fun fact about myself is that I play underwater hockey, so yes, it is a sport. I play in the Imperial College team. We get all the equipment, we get under the water 5 against 5. It's a lot of fun, you should check it out. I became an entrepreneur because basically I cannot work for corporates. I have always this need to go the extra mile, to disrupt, to change processes that sometimes are obsolete, and that by nature is not something that a corporate is used to, because sometimes they have their own operations that actually are cash cows, so it makes sense not to change them. So I created my first startup 5 years ago already. It was in the fashion business. But even if it was growing, I stopped it because there was no founder market fit. That's what I felt. The second one was a bit of a drama. The team was not right, so it folded itself. And now I'm on the third one, and it's on the right one with my amazing co-founders, Oleg and Zenek. We are on the right path, and we are very happy that we joined the Frankfurt Accelerator. Our expectations for the accelerators are very high. We are very happy to meet fellow entrepreneurs where we can learn from each other, but also to meet the amazing network of mentors across Germany, Israel, and all around the world, as well as connect with the investment ecosystem in Germany. So we are very happy that you joined the program, and looking forward to see you there.
Hi, my name is Ruben Merre. I am co-founder and CEO of Wave7, and I'm from Belgium. Engrave is a blockchain technology company on a mission to radically improve your security and your ease of use when you're managing your cryptocurrencies. Fun fact about myself, I love surfing, and I noticed that Ram, one of the co-founders of the program, is actually a ex-pro surfer. So yeah, please accelerate me on that as well. Why did I become an entrepreneur? Well, when I was 8 years old, I had my first tiny little business, and I just loved it. And these days, every day I go to work for Engrave, I just have that same feeling. It's something that comes from inside. It's your nature that says this is what you're supposed to do. What I think I will get out of the program, what I hope to get out of the program is, first of all, obviously grow my network. Secondly, I know that the platform is also used as a due diligence kind of way for potential investors, so I'm confident we will get value out of that as well. And thirdly, we are actually launching our pre-order campaign the 26th of May on Indiegogo. So these 4 weeks are actually running up to that, so I believe we can gain a lot of traction during the time. And obviously, I just want to show you a little sneak peek of our Engrave Zero hardware wallet. Completely offline, you can create and manage your own cryptocurrency accounts. That's it. Next sneak peek will maybe show a little bit more. Thank you very much. Bye.
So we are live. Welcome. It's May 19th afternoon from Frankfurt, 2 p.m. CET. It's the last and final workshop of the Accelerator Frankfurt program. Tomorrow, tune in at 4 p.m. CET for the big demo day where our 5 startups will be pitching to almost 80 investors that have signed up for the big demo day. Plus, we will have the live stream on our Twitch channel, Accelerator Frankfurt. But now to this final workshop given by a good friend of mine, Doron Cohen. Hello, Doron. Good to see you in Israel.
How are you doing?
And I think that the workshop comes at a really critical part of the accelerator. I think personally, for me, it's one of the most important workshops that we've given in our accelerator programs about pivoting. I have never seen a startup set out to do from the beginning what they ended up doing. You need to eventually pivot one way or another, and Doron is a master in that. So I don't want to talk anymore. Doron, it's all yours. You have here the guests. Feel free to interact with them. And yeah, take us away. Give us a little background about yourself as well.
Of course. So just before we start, a little question, a little request, basically. I do prefer dialogues over monologues. So please, whenever you want, interrupt me, whatever way you want, just ask any question. That would make it much more interesting for all of us. By way of a quick introduction, 1 second. Okay, can you guys see my screen with my picture, just to make sure we're on the right one?
Yep.
Cool. So my name is Doron Cohen. I did 2 or maybe 3 things in life. Number 1 was a programmer in the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, for nearly 6 years. Number 2 is I built my first startup company called LEVERATE, and we grew to become one of the leading providers of technology to retail foreign exchange brokerages. Basically 120 employees by the time I left my position at the end of 2013 in the company. And then I built Coversea, and we are a growing startup that deals with the world of GPs and LPs, investment managers and investors in the commercial real estate space. Started from payments and became a full platform for that space. We're going to talk about it a bit later. So that's a little bit about my own background. And maybe before we kind of, dive into my own story, I mean, I'm going to share with you in this presentation a little bit of my own story, and like the quite a few pivots I've had in this, like in my 15-year career, just to kind of give you some ideas on why I think this is important and how to kind of approach it. But maybe before we start, a little bit of the why.
Doron, one comment, perhaps
Sure.
for the viewers online. Maybe can you define pivot? What does pivot mean?
Yes. Okay. So I should have said it. So, I mean, basically, all of you are now building a business, a startup. You think you know what you're doing, and you think you know what you're after. Um, Assuming you're going to build a successful business, you're likely to be wrong with your client thoughts. And that doesn't mean anything bad. It just means that, I mean, startups are so dynamic that, I mean, if you have something, right that you're currently after, then as you kind of progress, you're going to learn that you need to make changes. And those pivots are those moments in times in a lifetime of a startup in which, I mean, you stop, you completely change your direction, hopefully using some of the assets you've accumulated so far, but you do make a material change because you are up to a bigger, better, smarter opportunity. You just figured out that something just doesn't work the way we thought it would work, and we have something smarter than we can do. And I think that almost all successful startups have had those pivot moments in their lifespan. And actually, that's what I would like to do today. Kind of share with you some of my experience in that space. And I'm pretty sure that any entrepreneur you're going to talk to will give you 1,000 pivot moments that they've had also in life. So maybe a bit about the why here, or like what's even going on. So you guys are all like pre-seed stage. Is that like a fair assumption?
Yes, correct.
Okay, cool. So if you're at a seed stage, then if you look at the US market, I guess Germany wouldn't be completely far away from that. But out of 1,119 companies, right? 48%. Sorry, those are companies which have raised a stage round. 48% of them would reach their second round. 30%, again, of the 1,119 companies would reach a third round, and only 3% would reach their sixth round. Okay. At the same time, on the right side, you can, like in the middle, you can see the amount of companies that would fail. It's not a nice number, right? But 67% of startups in total would not make it. And on the right side, you can see those who would get to an exit, and you can assume that the exits, and where it says 14%, those are relatively small exits where the founders get close to zero. It's a fair assumption. Only a few of the companies get to what eventually becomes the material exit. And I think it's kind of important to understand it. I mean, when we're building startups, we really, we have a better chance playing the roulette, right? Literally, this is the case. So with that in mind, one of the things I often look at is, how much of it is, can we turn this to a more scientific process? In other words, is it a pure stats game, or can we control it? And I think that one of the worst mistakes an entrepreneur can do is, we have a certain strategy, we execute to get up to this strategy. 2 months after it doesn't work, but we keep trying. 3 months after it still doesn't work. 6 months after it doesn't work. Well, at one point you have to understand that it just doesn't work. You have to rethink, redo it. This is where you got to pivot your business. So this will be my first pivot. When we started LEVERATE, and remember, LEVERATE eventually became a platform for real estate, for foreign exchange brokerages. But in the early days of LEVERATE, we actually thought we would be a sports arbitrage machine. Anyone knows what a sports arbitrage is? Okay. So here's a little piece of information about me. I'm not a sports fan. I never watch any football. Actually, I hate it. Okay. Sorry if that's offensive to anyone here. I really don't like it. But we spotted at some point in 2006, my co-founders and I spotted something that we thought could be a really interesting opportunity. And that opportunity is to look for arbitrage opportunities between different bookmakers, betting websites on the sports industry. So in what you can see on the screen, you got two names, William Hill, Penny Power, two of the, at least back then, I guess maybe even today, bigger bookmakers in the market. And just to kind of, simplify stuff, then if William Hill was to think that on an Arsenal versus Manchester game, there's a 70% chance for Manchester to win the game, then when they priced the bet, they would sort of offer a 3-1 on Arsenal and a 1.3-1 on Manchester. That basically means that, if I take 100 euros, bet on an Arsenal, and they win, I get back 300. And if I bet 100 euros on Manchester and they win, I get back 130. Okay, nothing new about it. But let's say, and what I'm going to show now is kind of makes it extreme, but just want you guys to understand the math behind. Let's say that Penny Power at the same time thinks actually that Arsenal has a 70% chances of winning. So if they have it, they'll do it at 1.3-1 for Arsenal and a 3-1 on Manchester. Okay, who can spot the arbitrage here? Anyone?
Come on, brains.
But I mean,
Go
it
ahead.
depends on the direction, right? You need to ultimately know who's going to win, in a sense, right?
Say again? Can you say again?
So the question is this type of arbitrage does not depend on who's right in the end, right? Does it matter who's going to win, or like?
No, that's the thing, right? We're not gamblers. We didn't want to bet on the game. It's not a statistic. Like, we didn't want to bet on the game. We wanted to earn money. Okay?
So I used to do something called matched betting, where it was similar, but we would take advantage of like free offers. So like if Penny Power says, first bet free, then of course we would arbitrage between the free and non-free, and then wherever someone wins, you get the money basically.
Great. Yeah, that's also an arbitrage opportunity. Correct. So maybe I'll kind of show this here, right? So Arsenal is a 3-1 on the left side, and Manchester is a 3-1 on the right side. That basically means if I take 100 euros, put them on Arsenal at William Hill, and then I put 100 euros on Manchester at Penny Power, now do the math, right? What happens if Arsenal wins? Then I lost 100 on Penny Power, and I got 300 on William Hill, and vice versa. Can anyone understand spot the arbitrage now? Great. Okay. Now that doesn't happen every time, right? And what we did back then basically is we built a machine that would look for those opportunities. It would mimic a person, like you literally saw, a mouse moving on a screen, clicking through the website, finding the bets, executing on them. The idea was to really do this like with a machine 24 hours a day. And we built it quite a few months. And we brought the platform to be ready. Didn't test it yet. We deposited some funds with a few of the bookmakers, the betting websites we've kind of designed for. And one day I get a call. And on that call, it was my dad. And tells me, listen, Doron, there's an investor that I know from the UK. He's coming to Israel. And where we were, and he says, hey, he's going to come in 2 weeks, and I really think that you guys should consider pitching to him, because who knows, he might be interested in what you guys are doing. And that's not right. I mean, we never met an investor before. We were like, pretty new. And then we said, okay, why not? But we had another idea that we never tried before. Okay, and that idea was basically was also an arbitrage, but in a slightly different market. Okay, and that market is the FX, the foreign exchange market. So then we looked at two providers in the foreign exchange market, FXCM and Forex.com, for the sake of discussion, two of the bigger names in that industry, at least back then. Okay, and let's look here. So let's say that the mid-market, meaning the euro versus dollar interbank rate is 1.1011. Okay, And then let's say that at the same time on FXCM, you can buy euros and sell dollars for 1.1012, and you can sell in that rate that you see on the screen in one spot 1010. And at the same time on forex.com, so they think that a mid rate is actually 10007, okay? Which a lot of people argue that it was impossible, but you know, we had another proof of that, but I'll get there. So that means that they would price the market about this way, okay, on the buy and sell rates. Okay, can anyone spot an arbitrage here?
Yeah, you just buy cheaper in Forex and you sell it more expensive on the other platform.
Exactly. Okay. So we had that idea. By the way, we didn't show it with too many people because it was a big secret for us. But anyone who understood something about FX and we discussed it with told us that we were nuts and it would never work. And we have an investor coming in 2 weeks. So we thought that we should try the idea. By the way, it's the worst advice I could give to any entrepreneur. You know, you got to focus. But anyway, that's what we did back then. And we tested it. And those tests were actually super interesting. So we built, within 2 weeks, we built a system that would collect market data from the foreign exchange markets, because we wanted to, you know, we gathered data from a few providers. We built analysis tools to kind of figure out if there was a real arbitrage between them. We created our first investor presentation ever in life, and we did 2 products on 1 presentation, which is a complete no-go, so don't ever do that, okay? And we did learn that the forex opportunity was way, way bigger. In other words, that was super successful. We figured out that, you know, we're like what we had in the sports market, you know, where we could say put 1 or 2 bets per day. In the FX markets, we spotted like, you know, dozens or hundreds of opportunities per day. It was a different scale, it was super, super interesting, a much more legit market. And so we decided to pivot, and that was our first pivot in life. I'm sorry, guys. Okay? I'm really sorry, guys. That's what happened when you do this at home. The coronavirus effect. Okay. Then, so we learned that the forex opportunity was way, way better. And we did our first pivot in life, basically. And let's see what happened. So we started doubling down on the FX market instead of betting, as I said before. Then we found out 2 things after we did that, after we took that decision. Who wants to guess what's the first one? I'll give you a hint. It is related to that investor. Well, he never invested. Okay. I mean, we did show him 2 products. I mean, what the hell did we think to ourselves, right? He did not invest. The other thing that we found out, by the way, it took us like a year to find out that we used a completely wrong data set when we took that decision. But like, who the hell knew? Okay. But that didn't matter at the time because we already took the decision. And despite the fact that we used the wrong data set, our thesis was still true. There were arbitrage opportunities in the market. And by end of 2007, basically, we launched our algo trading machine for the first time on real money with real FX brokerages. You know, pre-cloud days, everything is on, you know, PCs in our office. We launch everything, we go home, and we configure the platform to send us an SMS every time something happens. A few hours later, I get a call from my partner. I think it was one of the most important calls I've ever had. And he basically tells me that we just made our first arbitrage opportunity. And it was a successful one. Okay? So it doesn't sound like a big number, but it was huge because we spotted out that we built an algo trading machine that actually works. It found an opportunity in the market. It executed real time. And now we should really focus on scaling that up. That was pretty cool. And then comes 2008, January 2008, the year of the financial crisis. probably one of our best years ever, given our specific industry niche. And we built a company, we founded it, and we raised our seed capital. After we did our, that test that proved that we can earn those $15, it was really easy to raise money. And by mid that year, we traded $2 billion a month. That's like a pretty big sum for the 5 people we were. And 70 computers in the office, pre-cloud days again, so like kind of odd. And we were profitable first year. So it's pretty cool. And we pivoted. Okay, so I think this is the only pivot in life that I'll never know if it was a justified one or not. What we figured out is, in retrospective, so that market, it went really well. We were making 10 to 30% a month on our capital. It was just absolutely amazing. But we couldn't grow the number too much. The issue was that the way we traded, it would cause our counterparts or brokers to lose money. And because of that, they would shut down our accounts. And we would reopen a new account. And they would shut down that one. And it was an endless fight, okay? And we figured out that they're trying to improve, and they'll do everything they can to stop us from doing that. So we get a call one day before we made that pivot. And that call was from a broker we traded with or against. In the 2 months before that call, they actually lost $80,000 to us, thanks to the way we traded. And they just figured out that we're taking so much of their money, and they can't manage it. They couldn't risk manage that money. And they tell us, we want you guys to help us. They said, we want to pay you. Okay, fine, we handled that part. They said, we want your help. And that basically brings our episode 3. Okay, so with these guys, what happened was that there was a really unique opportunity. They had market data on what's going on in the FX market, which was really bad. By the way, no one was good, but they really sucked. Okay, and the result was that it was really easy to arbitrage them and really make a lot of money on what they did. So really quickly, we agreed on pricing with them. We made an internal change to our system. We basically used our internal internal pricing machine, which we've already developed and was really, really good. And we changed it, instead of providing pricing only to us, it provided pricing to them in real life. It priced the FX markets to them. We launched it, and we literally solved the problem overnight. We were not the only problem. We were the worst part of their problem, because we did it on a commercial scale, but they had others who were exploiting the fact that they just did not know how to price the market. And it was time to scale. And within less than a year, we took over 80% of the local market. It was pretty substantial at the time. We started selling abroad, and we were profitable for the 2nd year in a row.
So Doron, just one thing. So basically, you used the whole algo trading, the arbitrage algorithm you built. You used that same algorithm and gave it to the exchanges that you were trading against in order for them to stop people like you doing arbitrage. Is that correct?
Yeah, almost. Yes, it's 95% correct. So in order to do algo trading, we did one of the main things we did was to build our internal pricing engine, through which we had to know better than them what was the real price in the market. That pricing engine was we literally collected data from dozens of sources, and then we created internal systems that allowed us to perfect it. It's really hard to understand from so many prices in real time. These are hundreds or thousands of ticks per second. Really hard to understand what the real price is, who's wrong, who's ahead of the market, who's behind. And we built an algorithm that helped us figure out that part, okay? Then with this, once we had this algorithm, then we knew really well, when we looked at somebody, how they were pricing, we knew really well if they're doing bad or good or bad in the way they priced. So we could sell our internal pricing to others, not the algorithm, that was internal, but the output of it, which was the pricing, right?
It does sound a little bit like you went into a store, broke everything, and said, it would be a shame if someone came here and broke more stuff, right?
Right.
So
I mean, look, it was
so
really
you were selling protection, basically.
exactly, and that was, by the way, in that year was a part of the strategy. Okay, like our second client was a client that we also did an arbitrage on. They lost a lot of money to us, and then we told them, okay, here's what's happening to you guys. Buy this from us, and the problem stops. And they bought it, and it stopped. Okay, again, we were not the only problem, but we were the extreme part of it. And the others, they were just so much afraid of anything happening, and they also stopped, right? And I mean, we could come to a client with data they did not have in themselves. Because we could tell a client, listen, we just gathered data on you guys for 2 weeks. This is what's happening for you. Like you're fucked, right? Anyway, that's how we did it. It was extremely successful. It was time to scale. But that product had only one problem. Like it couldn't grow it endlessly in terms of market size. However, it was the most expensive feed by far at the time. Like people would pay a few hundreds of dollars per month for a feed. We would charge $10,000 a month for a feed. Okay, like just on a different league in terms of what we could charge for this. So with that, basically, it was time to scale the business. And to scale the business, now it was not about pivoting, it was about taking what we had and start building, expanding through the value chain of our customers. And in our case, basically, so we had the data feed, we had about 10 customers around end of 2009, give or take. We were already working on our risk management platform that we wanted basically to start selling to brokers. We had a design partner for that. And now we wanted basically to add more. And the idea was that let's take everything that we have and package it in a SaaS broker in a box kind of product. In other words, you want to become a brokerage, well, fine, you deal with the banks, licenses, everything, but we're going to give you the entire technology in a box. You don't need anything on the tech side. It's going to be so much better than what you can do by yourself. It's so much cheaper. But we missed one component, that was a trading platform. So we wanted to get that one done too. So what we did is basically we spotted a supplier that would sell us a trading platform, and we negotiated a contract. But before we signed a contract, we've already had 2 clients with whom we negotiated a price to buy that platform. Okay, and we literally signed with both in like with a few days in between. In other words, like we used the customer's funds to pay the supplier. Right, that was almost an arbitrage on its own, literally like self-funded, and we can launch it. And now we had a complete product for a broker. So that became our next big thing, and the end of the story is that roll forward, 3 years, roll 3 years forward, we became a full service provider across every vertical of what they needed, anything from trading platforms for the users, from mobile, web, etc., all the way to the back office, CRM, risk management, data feed, social trading, hosting behind the scenes, liquidity solutions. Like we really expanded from there. Okay, but it was just about finding that that 1 or 2 use cases through which we could scale. So that was the story of LEVERATE. Any questions before I proceed? Okay.
Well, one question, Doron. Like, I mean, retrospectively, I'm sure it all sounds like these were relatively straightforward decisions to make, but I'm sure it was very complicated at the time. Like, is there any like decision-making framework that you used or that helped you also to get agreement between the founders and the team?
A lot of arguing. I wish I could give you a more scientific answer. But literally, look, those things are a combination of a hunch, a good business sense, if you may, and data. And it's really hard to find the right mix between the two. I think, as a founder, everything you do starts from a hunch, then it needs to be backed by data, right? Yeah, but I don't have like a more professional answer to that. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. Thanks.
It's a very good question, actually.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a good answer too.
A lot of arguing. I think that's a perfect answer. That's why team is important.
True. Okay, and it was time for me. End of 2013, I left my co-CEO position at LEVERATE, which we sold part of the company. It's Sasso Bank from Denmark. We were 120, 130 employees, something like that. Offices in 5 countries. And I became chairman for 2 years and started building Covercy, my next business. When I approached Covercy, I already knew what to expect. I knew my life was going to be miserable. And I knew that by definition, what I'm thinking is wrong. So I think it was a more experimental approach to how to build this, although I still can't say there's a scientific formula behind. Who knows what a product market fit is?
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of different ways of defining it. The explanation I like the most was that you have about 25% of your users that you retain across 1, 2, 3 year period. That's when you have reached product market fit.
I think 3 years is way after you reached it. But okay. Any other approach? That's my own view, by the way. I agree. There are many ways to explain it. Alex, you had something?
Well, I never had a scientific answer for product market fit. It's just like something that is growing on itself, right? I would say that you can see that it's working, and you just need to accelerate it, right? Because I think that's really what most investors are looking for. They want something that it's already working. You just need money.
Correct. I agree. So what you have on the screen is at least the Wikipedia definition. Okay. And I heard an informal definition from somebody I really respect at one point, which I really think that would be the definition that would go to. He told me once, product market fit is when the customers, they pull you to do what they want. Like, I mean, they just kill you with, you gotta do this and that, and like, this is where you know that, you have so many requests on the table, like everyone's just, killing you. It becomes really, really hard to manage it. That I think is a perfect product market fit. Like, nobody is happy, but everybody has demands, and no one is going away because they want you to double down and move forward. Okay. So no matter how you look, how you define product market fit, I think one thing is really important to understand is the point. Like, product market fit is like where startups like really go to that, like like the beginning of that, fast growth curve of theirs. And before we kind of continue that, who kind of has in mind what's the difference? The advantages of corporates versus startups. Any thought on that?
Silence.
Okay. So one thing corporates have and startups done is money, a lot of money, right? I mean, what? Okay.
Yeah, the network and the bandwidth.
Sorry, what been saying?
The network, the bandwidth, it's basically about leveraging the strengths of the corporate and then leveraging the strengths of a startup, like pulling yourself apart for the things that could mess up the startup vibe, let's say the whole like reporting parts. But obviously, if you're a startup and you're working with Coca-Cola and you're selling water, they have the distribution network already in 250 plus countries. So that's definitely something you can keep.
Right. So I agree with that. When it comes to I think the experience, the teams that they have, the client base they have, the money they have to pay, all that.
I would say the flexibility as well, right? The flexibility of a startup versus flexibility of corporates, because a company can be very flexible with everything. If you're having a smaller team, for example, everybody can make quite quick decisions rather than having to go through a massive bureaucracy. I think that could be a pretty good advantage.
Correct. And that's probably the only advantage of a startup over a corporate, right? And most startups in some way compete with incumbents, with corporates. some way, somewhat, right? Somebody here does KYC. There are a lot of corporates who do KYC, right? Okay, but you're in a different space. Fine, but you guys can run much faster than others, right? So like, whatever the case is, the only advantage of a startup is that it can move fast. Because corporates have more people, really good people, all the money in the world. I mean, just how else can you compete with that? Okay. So it's important to understand that like product market fit, by the way, does not equal perfection. And I know in Germany a lot of things are around perfection. Germans are really, really good at that. But really, startups is where you should, at least for some time, give up on perfection. Because the problem about perfection is that perfection is really expensive. And startups don't have money to pay for perfection. They don't have time. And remember, startups are likely to be wrong in their direction, that they invest too much in a certain direction, it was wrong, they just threw too much money away. Okay? So perfection is probably not the right approach to a startup. Instead, it is about validation. Okay? And that comes to an MVP. I guess most of you know what an MVP is. Anybody wants to say that? Yeah.
Minimal viable product.
Correct. Okay. And that basically means not how we get to the, to the perfect product that everybody wants to use, but instead how we get to that minimum level that some people want to use, will give us feedback so that we know what we throw away and where we double down. Okay. Now, finding that minimum viable product, threshold is very different between different industries and different products. I'm gonna share with you one of the most interesting stories that I think I've ever had, at least. So in the early days of Covercy, when it was not a company yet, okay, we wanted to basically build a company. I want to remind you the original idea behind Covercy was to build a cross-border payment platform. Are you guys aware of like, say, TransferWise or Zimo? Cool. So something like that. Okay. So the idea was we're in 2014, right? TransferWise was just starting, and we wanted to build a company that would enable people and businesses to send money between countries and currencies. They'll be fast, easy, and low cost, unlike the banks. Okay. And we want to start a business. Now, the way to do this is, a customer needs to go to the website, they need to book a trade, a transaction, they need to send us their money, and we got to send the money to the recipient. Okay, it's a fairly complex business case on the execution side. And we want to do an MVP. That MVP target is, again, to prove, should we even start the company? Okay, can we get a positive ROI, meaning can we get a customer for an X amount of dollars and make a profit of that customer, that is a revenue of that customer, which is bigger than X. Okay. So, but how do you do that before you have anything? So who kind of wants to think about what are the problems that we have to even try that kind of business concept? Okay, I'll give you a hint. We don't have a company. Who wants to think about something else? Really basics.
High cost money.
So even before, right? Remember, we want to test. Like we just want to see if we can acquire customers. We still are not interested, in getting to 10 million customers. We only need to try with a few.
Accurate data.
Okay, so the issue was, again, it was more basic. We need a bank account. Okay, and it's even worse because in this business, which is a regulated business, getting any money and sending this to a third party without a license is a criminal offense. Okay, literally, it's money laundering. It's like everything you want to think about, right? It's just a complete no-go, right? And I mean, if you want to build a company that has a bank account and a license, you got to build an entire use case behind. You got to raise money. It's a pretty long process, but we want to raise money. How are you going to raise money if you can't prove your business case? Okay. So anyone has an idea what we did to even test it? Okay. So our goal was to generate 100 leads at a cost per lead of less than $10 per lead. Okay, that we had an assumption which said we could not get a full customer because that would be a criminal offense. Again, we're not allowed to get new customers. Okay, but we had an assumption that we could we would have a certain conversion ratio from a lead to a paying customer. Okay, and we had an assumption of how much revenues we would have from that. Sorry, we wanted to validate how much revenues we would generate from such a customer, and we wanted to check how much getting those leads would cost. So at least we can fill out a few of those parameters that we had in this formula. We can't answer everything, but if we can tick the box on 4 out of 6 parameters, it's way better than having 0 when you come to an investor discussion. And by the way, when we take our own decision on whether or not we want to invest the time in building a business, because that's really complex, right? So this is what we did. We built a website. Here's a picture from the early days of our website. It looked real, but there was nothing behind it. Okay. It had 2 buttons here. One of them was to convert your currency. The other one was to protect your risk. We tried a few things. We tried currency conversion. We tried risk management. Each of them is an MVP, by the way. Okay. And then we played with it. Which button is, could you see only 1 button, 2 buttons in the middle, in which colors? We literally played with all of these. We paid maybe $2,000 or $3,000 to design the website. My co-founder had built it by himself. He's the programmer, right? And that's it. Behind the scenes, it was completely nothing. And then when you clicked on, say, convert your currency, which at some point became transfer funds overseas, as we kind of evolved in that MVP and started figuring out what works better or worse, then this is what the second page was like. The second page was, you define how much money you want to send and in which currency. We took some sort of a market rate we had, and we gave you, the amount in a different currency. And we did something that would kind of give you, the benchmark of our rate versus an average bank rate. Okay, nothing here is true, but it doesn't even work. Okay, and when you click on next, who wants to guess what happens? Well, it would just tell you, we're sorry, we're not regulated yet in your country. It would first ask you what's your email to start the process, and then after we put your email, we would tell you, sorry, we're not regulated yet in your country. Okay, so think how much data we gathered in this process.
But you were not regulated in any country, so you would just tell that to everyone.
We didn't lie, we were not regulated in your country, that was true.
They didn't say they were regulated in some other country. They just said they're also not regulated. Yeah.
Correct.
That's very good.
And if you're going to think about the data that we gathered here, right? So we checked which of those buttons you clicked. And again, I told you before, we played with it, changed the text. Eventually, it changed to a single button that said send money overseas. And the title changed, right? And we knew how much money you were going to send. We knew which currencies you were interested in, right? And we considered you leave a real email or just a fake, abc@gmail.com. Okay, so now all we had to do was to put, a Google AdWords campaign, right? Start marketing to people, get traction to the website, and see how many people we can literally get to click next, fill out their, email, and that's what we defined as a lead. Remember, the goal was 100 leads with a cost per lead of less than $10 a lead. Okay, so after a few trials and errors, and that included, different countries, different advertisement messaging, et cetera, it all took maybe 2 months or something like that, and a few variations. And all in all, by the end of this process, we've maybe invested $3,000 or $4,000 in the entire thing. Okay, we hit our goal, and by that point, we basically, the results were that we did generate the leads in line with our target. As a result of which, we started a company and we raised our seed financing. And again, just like with the case of LEVERATE, once we had that MVP, that successful MVP, it was so much easier to raise funds. Because I could now sit with an investor and tell him, listen, these are the assumptions of our forecast. This is what we've tested. What's the cost per lead? What the customer would pay, etc. With all of that tested. That's the part that we could not test because it would just be criminal offense to take money from a customer. We would never do this without a license. Okay, so the entire thing became like so much better and so much easier to raise money for that use case. Okay, so when I can ask myself, like, why build an MVP? Maybe let's say, like, what's the worst case scenario of building an MVP? Any guess on that? Fail fast, right? You made a mistake, you spotted out where your problem is, you learn from it basically, and you make another MVP. What's the best case scenario?
Oh, you learn something valuable for your company.
I mean, you can basically, you can start doubling down, right? You can start building a product, right? Validate more and more of that product until you're more ready to the next phase, right? And that really would depend on business by business, whether or not it could happen in the early days or later on, right? I mean, some industries, whatever, pharmaceuticals, maybe you could take 6 years before you get to a real customer, right? Other businesses, maybe you could do it in 3 months. It really depends. So what is in a good MVP?
Oh, it's cheap. Yeah.
It's cheap. Yes.
It's fast.
It's measurable. It is achievable, and it's actionable. Okay? In other words, if you have an MVP that you execute and 2 months into it, you cannot figure out if it was a success or a fail, then it was not measurable. Or you did not put you did not put targets, you did not put the right targets, you did not measure them correctly. It better be something really, really, really straightforward, right? It is actionable because if you hit the targets, you know what to do. And if you don't hit them, then at least you can start figuring out what next you should do. It better be achievable, right? I mean, you don't want to put an MVP with whatever. In our case, get 10,000 leads because that would be too expensive, take too much time, wouldn't make any sense. Like, it has to be something that you can literally smell how you can get to. Okay, so after we had that, we started adding data layers to our business. This is not a real picture, but just an illustration. And we started building a payment company. We raised money. We got licensed in the UK, in Europe, basically, in Israel. Later on, through partnerships, we started coming to the US. Of course, we built all the front and back end technology, the compliance stuff. We created bank accounts, and we started to look where we could be more differentiated because there was more and more competition in the market, and we wanted to see if we can literally own a niche. One of the early niches we wanted to own was the world of importers, because importers, they buy goods from overseas, they pay cross-border, they pay cross-currency almost by definition. We thought it could be a really interesting work for us. And we created a case study. Okay, so basically what we did is, or what we wanted to do with our MVP, we wanted to check if we can get to defensible revenue margins. Okay, meaning one of the problems we had in our business is, people could negotiate it with you. What's the rate they're going to pay you, right? So like, if all that you bring to the market is I'm an inch cheaper than the other competitor, then it's really hard to sustain a long-term viable business in that environment. So we want to really see if we can be defensible. And as we kind of tested more and more with importers, we figured out that there was a really significant pressure on our margins, like to reduce prices. And at the same time, we couldn't really retain the customers. So obviously it was not a good fit, okay? It took us a few months to understand it. but it was really important to understand it because I mean there was a vertical that it was clear at one point that it was just not for us. And then one of the verticals we had somewhere hidden in our BI platform was the vertical of investors, and primarily real estate investors. And in the early days, when we looked at it, we thought it was not interesting because, I mean, we saw a transaction from a real estate investor. They would send, you know, say $100,000 from one country to another to invest to fund normally an LP stake in a GP-driven transaction, meaning like in an investment vehicle or in a direct investment in a property, and they would use us to fund it. And we always thought it was not interesting because we said, yeah, but you know, they invest now, and what next? I mean, we're going to see them again in 4 years. I mean, that's not that's a customer we can't really retain. So we have good short-term margins, but nothing on the long run. But then we started rereading our data, and it turned out to be actually super interesting. And the reason is that we figured out that they were all, or most of them were GP or investment manager driven. And if we had just reread the data, then it was not about the payer, but it was about the investment manager who would bring that payer as an investor, as a customer. And for us, those investment managers started becoming a real growing pool of customers, basically. So if you kind of look at our story in retrospective, so we started as a cross-border payment company. We targeted, you know, the use case of someone from Germany who was going to send 3,000 euros to his brother in America needed dollars. We spotted those investors actually who were making much bigger transactions in a specific vertical. We built the relationships with the GPs who sent them our way, and then at some point those GPs moved from being from our referrers, from a sales affiliate to a customer. So when we doubled down, basically, we basically converted Covercy to become a full platform for those GPs and LPs. Okay. So today, if you look at our website, so you can see our platform for GPs, which does everything from fundraising, investor communications, investment administration, and of course the payments, the capital calls and distributions of the parties, which have been and still are the main part of our business. On the right side, you have our investor portal, which also gets all the data of a person's investments to a single location across different GPs, and of course with payments integrated. We still, by the way, run our transfer funds model, but today about 70% of it comes from the investment space. So exactly 59 minutes. Any questions?
Well, I remember Doron, just when Accelerator Frankfurt was first starting, we were just a small client of Covercy, sending a few thousand here and there cross-border. It's an amazing pivot you've done. I haven't used Covercy for a while, and I don't think I'm able to, right? You're not taking any more small clients like this.
We are, but today with bigger minimums. Because again, it became a smaller part of our business, so we focus it on the more profitable clients of it.
Yeah, makes sense.
I have a quick question as well about the pivot. So when, of course, it's still like you have to notice that something is going wrong and something is not really working out. I think you kind of mentioned it briefly, how long time it took before you actually decided to, let's just change this thing around. What does it need to happen? How long was that process of seeing this is not failing? When should we just give up and rethink the situation of how do we make this work?
Yeah. Look, the best way to do it, and I'll be allowed to say that it's always done like this, the best way to do it is with what we had. 1 second. is what we had here basically. You know, it's a really clear target. You define the time, say you take, you know, a month, 2,000 euros, and you have a very specific target. Then it's really easy to understand, you know, 5 weeks after, did we meet it or not? Not everything is that easy, okay? Especially when it comes to selling to customers, sometimes you learn that it takes a little bit longer than you think, that the use case is not exactly what you thought. So there's no really good answer on this. This is where your instinct needs to play. The more you can quantify this, the better and faster and cheaper it's going to be. The less you can do it, it means you'll have to rely a lot on your instincts and be brutal with yourself. I mean, are we succeeding or not? Because that's really hard to say we're failing. Really, really hard.
One other thing, you see here that you had like a B2C kind of pivoting. Is to my understanding later on that you sort of shift sort of into B2B in the later on. And that is very interesting to see that transitioning, right? That you still got like the deeper understanding and the amount of data and the behaviors, and you can see the clicks and everything. And based on the B2C sort of MVP space, you shift over into the B2B ones. And that is extremely, extremely interesting, especially for us who are B2B. But of course, a lot of the things that we do also plays into B2C in some certain way, but we haven't really like pushed or marketed or gathered enough data in that space. So it was nice to see like how you guys sort of transitioned over into B2B.
Correct. So I think a B2C to B2B pivot, you see this with a lot of B2C companies. Anyone knows the reason for that? But around, do we have 3 more minutes or do we have to finish already?
No, we have. Go ahead, no problem.
Okay. So a B2C to B2B pivot is a really popular one, at least from what I know. And the reason is that B2C businesses it's very hard to create and grow with them. The reason is that B2C businesses have extremely expensive costs of acquiring customers, whereas B2B businesses are way more targeted, okay? So one of the reasons that we had, and one of the strategy that we've implemented here was basically, okay, we make our money, at least in V1 of this platform. I'm not saying this is going to be V4, okay, but we make our money from the investors who are moving money. But how the hell can you get to a real estate investor? I mean, you know, it's like, how do you market to them? Okay, but marketing to their GPs, to their investment managers, is way easier because those guys are their network. You know, when you meet one, he tells you about the other one, who tells you about the third one, right? You meet an investor, he tells you who else he spoke with, right? So there are plenty of them in the market. And with that, we could approach a B2B sales strategy and a marketing strategy. And they get our B2C customers, if you want to think about it like that. Okay, that's maybe for another session, but that's like really the network effects behind of how you kind of have the two sides of the market, but without needing the two of them in day one, because that by its own is a really hard thing to achieve.
Anything else, gentlemen? It's not easy to get Doron on such a small session. So shoot, or we will close the session. 5 seconds. Alex?
Thank you, Doron, for the great presentation. I think I don't have any questions, but I just like thank you for the.
You're welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Sure.
Doron, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for really taking the time to come to Accelerator Frankfurt. You didn't fly this time. It was we did it with Zoom. that worked. Yeah, hope to see you in person soon.
Hopefully.
And
all right, yeah, good one.
Very good, guys. Thank you very much for your attention. And if there's any other questions to Doron, just feel free to shoot them over to me. I'll connect you guys.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thank
Great.
you. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
We can go to commercials.
They're really giving everything they have into the business that they've created and into the community that they are nurturing. And their help and their patience and their enthusiasm was something which is rare and is one of the reasons I think that in the long term they're going to succeed very well here.
I want to thank particularly Maria and Graham, who were great initiatives of this program, and I guess I speak in the name of all participating startups here. Thank you.
I want to say hi to the other countries tuned in. We've marketed this event also in Finland very strongly and in Israel.
I'm just going to tell you exactly why, the reasons why you're here and what we're going to get out of the day as well. Please put your hands together for the founder of Accelerator Frankfurt, Mr. Ram Shohan.
The business life, startup life, entrepreneur, it's all about people. Because it is a big day for Accelerator Frankfurt.
I think that it's a wonderful area to actually develop and adopt initial customers.
This feeling that failing is very, very bad. And if you're an entrepreneur, if you want to do something, you have to have the ability to
I think the unique thing that actually Frankfurt brings is this connection with Israel. We all know Israel is a startup hub, you know, like the second after Silicon Valley. And what we want to do here in Frankfurt is really create a vibrant ecosystem. And for that, I think it helps that we have this Israeli startups coming to Frankfurt, mixing with their own, with crazy ideas and crazy ways of doing things, with a more stable, down-to-earth German way, systematic way of doing things.
Banks, VCs, business angels. I think you have the biggest responsibility of nurturing our startup ecosystem. You are the oxygen for the startups.
Maria and Ram, they have a huge background and experience in bringing up startups. So they come from the communities in Israel and Finland, where startup is a very strong community and maybe much more active and dynamic than in Germany, and have brought that spirit to Germany.
No, it's definitely been an outstanding experience, so I would definitely rate it as a 10, for sure.
It would be a 10. Honestly, first program we participated in, but it certainly over-delivered our expectations.
Yeah, it would be absolutely like 100, but if it's at 10, it's close, then I would say 10.
If I had a chance to give Accelerator Frankfurt a vote from 1 to 10, I'd give 11.
Yes. It was a great 4 months, with a little pause, and then we start again, the whole crazy journey one more time.